Hello people, and welcome back to another Cities Skylines tier video. Hope you're all having a wonderful day. Today we're going to have a look at all these Snowfall maps. As always, these are based on my own personal experience with the game, so if you feel I've played something too high or too low, let me know down in the comments below. Before we do get started today, huge thank you for 40,000 subscribers on the channel. That is enormous. Really appreciate all the support. Well, let's get started, shall we? So with a lot of these maps, it's going to be hard to ignore the snow and of course the relentless white. It does make playing these maps quite considerably harder, so it probably should be factored into their ranking, but I'll try not to talk about it too much. First of all, we have Frosty Rivers, and this to me goes into a middle of the road B tier. So Frosty Rivers is of course a winter themed map with all of its outside connections, all available natural resources and a 56% buildable area. Taking a look at those natural resources, we have splits of everything pretty evenly across the board. Some really significant oil patches right up against the waterways, which is quite nice, and farmland and ore scattered around the base of the mountain ridges. If you're interested in using wind turbines on Frosty Rivers, you won't really get that much use out of them anywhere alongside the water. The terrain, mostly around the waters, is very friendly to beginners and easy to build on, but if you're heading into those 81 tile radius, the only thing you're really getting access to is more water and some pretty gnarly mountain peaks in the south and the northeast. And indeed, if you want to do some fishing, you will have all the shellfish in the world, with spatterings of tuna knocking around as well. So for me, Frosty Rivers is probably one of the better. At Snowfall maps, you get in a fairly nice mix of terrain. Again, as with most of the vanilla maps, we're seeing touches of jank with the national connection intersections. This isn't great, it won't create traffic, but doesn't look the most realistic thing in the world. Likewise as well with the train junctions here. We've gone back to this for some reason. Terrible little triangle junctions, way too short, but of course can all be changed. So I mentioned this in the last tier list as well, in the fact that I'm not a huge fan of these real severe vanilla cliffs. They're just so very harshly terraformed, and I know this kind of stuff happens in real life, especially up around like the Norwegian fjords, but it's not good for cities. So it's in the map if it bothers you as well. Kind of happening here, not quite as severe on this side, but it is certainly making itself known, although thankfully it is towards the edge of the map, probably where you're not going to be doing that much building. But if there is one thing that I do like about the Snowfall maps, it's the mountain ranges, and this is a recurring theme for all of the Snowfall maps today as well. All of them have very nicely terraformed mountains, but we're seeing much nicer bridges here, a lot better than I think it was Fisher Enclave that had some bridge jank, wasn't it, in the last tier list. So this is a lot nicer. This here isn't great. You can see where the highways have been drawn in. They definitely weren't using Move It to make the maps at this point, I don't think, right? So there is touches of highway jank here and there. This also happens over by the starting tile too. There is just touches of highway jank, and it does give that main highway a little bit of a roller coastery vibe, so if it does bother you, then it's here on this map as well. Its starting tile does have lots of nice opportunities with fertile land, lots of fertile land available immediately, with a big pocket of oil over to the west if you choose to unlock that tile, with some nice waterway opportunities. So for me, you're getting a nice mix of terrain, all your resources, all of your connections. If you can tolerate the Snowfall map and some of the vanilla jank, then Frosty Rivers certainly presents some really nice waterfront opportunities and probably falls as one of the better Snowfall maps. Next up is Frozenshire, the original map that Novaria was built on, and this for me goes into A tier. So of course Frozenshire is a winter themed map with all of its outside connections and a 51% buildable area, and also has all available natural resources, although not that much fertile land. Taking a look at those natural resources, we can see where everything is split over. Lots of ore up around the bottom of the mountain ridges, which there is a lot of in Frozenshire, and a fair bit out in the ocean as well. So if you're looking to use kind of the oil drilling rigs and create some kind of winter coastal refinery, Frozenshire was a great opportunity to do that. For the wind, again, everything based off of the mountain peaks and along the coastline, nothing too surprising. The terrain is extremely gnarly, and you can see why it holds its 51% buildable area. Lots and lots of mountains. And good news for the anchovy and salmon lovers watching the video, you will have plenty of these here. If you want more, then of course you are going to have to terraform. So my opinion on the original Frozenshire is it's definitely kind of one of the best of the Snowfall maps, but there's a reason I had Eggsy remaster it because Could you imagine if Novaria was built on this, how different things would look? Not having the big wide rivers. I would suggest if you want to play Frozenshire, play Eggsy's remastered version. It gives you a lot more buildable room, but that's not what we're looking at today. We're looking at the original one. You also get the dam here as well with Eggsy's version. It's not here now, right? Looks a little bit strange where Novaria should be, but it's not. So although the terrain is relatively unfriendly, there are a ton of mountains here. I think they justify their placement because they're very, very nicely terraformed indeed, right? This is how you do mountains. These big epic ridges with huge slopes coming down. Lots of really nice opportunities, you know, and I've built a city on this map. For those that haven't watched Novaria, I'll leave it pinned as a card in the video if you want to go and check it out. This is where peak 15 should be, right? Right here. So it's a really great looking map, certainly one of the best Snowfall ones. You also get a little island out here too, which is great for a nature reserve build. You can imagine getting some little bridges back and two across here. I think that'll look pretty sweet, right? And you're also getting little bits of kind of standard vanilla decoration with the broken castle walls in a number of different places. So if you want to utilise these in a build, then they are here in the map for you. Again, it does suffer insane highways, a little bit roller coastery, but nothing that can't be fixed yourself, right? Let's also go and check out its train junctions, which are better, thank you. This is a lot better than the horrible little triangle ones we saw in the other map, right? In Frosty Rivers. This is a proper train intersection. This is fine. And I love what they attempted to do with the highway here, with the kind of the snaking down this mountain valley. It's just not the smoothest thing in the world. But again, of course, in Eggsy's version of Frozenshire, this is all fixed up. This is your starting tile here. And again, if you are going to be moving out into 821 tiles, you're only unlocking extreme mountain peaks, very unfriendly for building. So certainly not a map that enjoys being played with the 821 tile mod. But with your starting tile, you have access to farming, oil and forestry immediately, with a little waterway over here too, which of course flows out and down into your coastal region. So I really enjoy building on Frozenshire, but definitely the remastered version as opposed to the DLC one. I will leave that version of the map linked below if you want to go and check it out, and also links to Novaria if you want to see that too. But definitely one of the better Snowfall maps, all your resources, all your connections, some very nicely terraformed mountain terrain, and some decent waterways too. Leave Frozenshire sat at a very strong A tier for me. Next up is Icy Islands, and this for me falls into C tier. So Icy Islands is a winter themed map with all of its outside connections, all available natural resources, and a 59% buildable area, and a ton of water as well. Taking a look at those natural resources, it is predominantly oil, and again based very much around the water, so if you're after some kind of coastal, waterfront, refinery kind of vibes, another good map for this. And pockets of ore knocking around in the mountains with a little splattering of fertile land near the starting tile. For our wind turbine friends, all of your wind is of course based around the waters and the mountain peaks. Taking a look at the terrain, pretty friendly for beginners, very flat around your starting tile and indeed all the land around it, especially on the islands, with you only really gaining any significant height within the 821 tile radius. And indeed shellfish and tuna lovers can rejoice with a small deposit of salmon for the salmon people. But if you're interested in fishing, then there is your fishing map for Icy Islands. So while that doesn't sound immediately too bad, then why is Icy Islands in C tier? I think it suffers the same problem as Cliffside Bay did from the vanilla map rankings. Is its landscape, it forces you into a very unique style and type of build, which isn't a bad thing, but it certainly narrows down its possibilities. For some reason, we're back to these, like why Frozenshire had them fine. Why are these different again? So the rail intersections. Something that I have noticed as well is that the fertile land is actually yellow snow in the Snowfall maps, so... Right? don't eat yellow snow. And yeah, it's other connections as well, really bad. So they've come with some nice kind of highway vibes alongside rail here, which is fine. This is really nice. You know, I like the aesthetic here. All the connections running parallel. But look at this. You can see underneath the highway, it's like clipped. This is really bad. This is DLC. Like this is DLC. There's better maps than this on the workshop. That's terrible. You can't be doing that. It looks awful. So you'll definitely have to rip all of this highway out, replace it yourself to get rid of that. Flying around at the base of the rivers as well, you are seeing some vanilla cliff action starting to make itself known. So again, for those that aren't a fan of extremely high terraform riverbanks, probably won't enjoy this that much. You do only have forestry available within the starting tile, however there is fertile land immediately north and east, also southeast as well, and oil over in the north. So I think unless you're coming into this map looking to create maybe kind of like a dedicated collection of little island communities, you can probably do some really cool things with this map. But I think trying to build any other kind of city here, the map theme really pushes you out of doing anything other than kind of island communities, hence its name. And it even happens over here as well. Right, we're getting this highway clip in. That's so bad for DLC, man. I can't believe that. Just have the clipping under here, so it's not good at all, is it? So its internal connections have certainly regressed from what we saw in Frozenshire for some reason, who knows why. And it really isn't the worst map in the world, it's just so low because of its terrible highways, bad rail connections, and the map theme itself, just all the islands. It really narrows the scope of this map. So there's definitely better Snowfall maps out there. Icy Islands is C tier for me. Next up is Snowy Coast, and this for me falls into a B tier. So Snowy Coast is of course a winter themed map with all available outside connections, a 68% buildable area, which is one of the highest for the Snowfall DLC, and all of its natural resources. Taking a look at those natural resources, you are split pretty evenly across the board with again lots of oil lying around the water. Snowfall DLC really loves oily waterways for some reason, with fertile land knocking around and little deposits of ore in and around the mountain ridges. As always with the wind, you are going to get the most use off the mountain tops and the shorelines, and with your terrain all through the middle, and the majority of the islands are relatively flat, and your 81 tile radius should be getting some significant peaks but also some valleys, so the map is certainly somewhat friendly to 81 tiles. And if you'd like to do some fishing, then again shellfish and tuna lovers will be super happy. So again, Snowy Coast, it's going to fall pretty middle of the road for me, and we'll have a little fly around and look why, shall we? We've regressed again to terrible triangle train intersections. I wonder if there was actually different people making the maps, because for them to have them sorted in Frozenshire and then not here, I don't know. Maybe some of the map making team didn't fully understand the rail implications, but you know, all stuff that can be fixed yourself once you hit the milestones to unlock trains. You are getting your regular vanilla intersections here. And while we're here, we'll have a look at the starting tile as well. Only forestry, you don't really get anything else. Of course, you do have water, so you can do fishing, I suppose, if you want. But fertile land is available both west, south, and east, so don't have to wait that long for some significant industry. So I do like the islands out here, and they're a significant size as well. If you want to zoom in out, you know, it's a fair old chunk of landmass that sits here, so certainly nothing to shake a stick at. I have to point this out again. This is even worse than it was in the last map in Icy Islands. This is terrible, man. This is so bad. Look at the clipping, the floating highways. You're going to have to sort this out yourself. There's no way I could sit and build a city knowing that this was all happening. It's not going to affect the gameplay, but I'm very much an aesthetic player. I guess this won't bother some people as much as it does me. But because I'm so aesthetically focused, that's hideous. I would have to rip all this highway out, which if you're playing in the vanilla restrictions, moving through the milestones is a pretty expensive project to do. And again, likewise with all of the Snowfall maps, just nicely terraformed mountain masses. Okay, get some really nice cute communities at the bottom of these, and up onto them as well if you wanted to build on them. So I do like the mountains in most of the Snowfall maps. So it's got some nice flat buildable land, you've got all your resources, all of your connections. Again, having to point out the horrific highway and connection jank, it's just terrible. Like, that shouldn't be paid for content, to have the highways like that, really not good. But it is just kind of a nondescript, mostly flat map in the Snowfall theme, and if you're looking for kind of just nice buildable area with some waterways and all your connections and all resources, there are maps that do it a million times better than Snowy Coast. But it's just kind of bog standard, middle of the road. Its connections, again, pull it down. So nothing amazing to write home about. Not the worst Snowfall map ever, but there are better ones out there too. And last and perhaps least is Winter Hills, and this for me actually qualifies as our first crap map of the tier list series. So Winter Hills is of course a winter themed map with all available outside connections. It has a 68% buildable area. And it does have forestry, which can of course be placed manually. However, it has very little oil, very little ore, and zero fertile land. So no farming. Taking a look at those natural resources, they are almost clustered always around the middle, which once we get into the map here is essentially like a dome. Super strange looking map. But here's your natural resources. Plenty of opportunities to use wind turbines. There's lots of high wind spots all over this map. Terrain, one of the more interesting, I think probably the most unique terrain map in any of the base game or DLC maps, I think. It's this big dome here in the middle. Super weird. We'll have a look at this in a minute. And indeed, if you'd like to do some fishing, then tuna are certainly winning the fight with spatterings of salmon, anchovy and shellfish knocking around, should you so wish to go and harvest them. But just look at this map. So strange. So strange. So right in the middle, there's this enormous hill. The Winter Hill, I suppose, right? But it's kind of like a dome. And the highway snakes up it. Which they've actually managed to sort out the clipping here. On like very uphill, gnarly terrain is when they get it right. It's when it's flat, it seems to kind of go a little bit gnarly. So yeah, the highway snakes up and arrives at your starting tile, which is here. Which has just forestry and a little bit of water in it, so you can keep supplied. So there's just a lake at the top, which is okay. And then the highway snakes back down this side across a huge gully where they have really brought the bridge up. And then it snakes off back again outside of the map. If anyone has built a city on this map and has screenshots, please shout in our Discord. I would love to see what a city looks like on this map. I can just imagine the terrain being so massively unfriendly with so many kind of real large, essentially dome-like hills. It certainly takes after its name, right? It is definitely Winter Hills. We also have some more vanilla map detail in here as well, which I guess these are supposed to kind of be these machine gun trench nests things that we get in. So there's a few of these over here in and around the rocks and stuff. So if you're a fan of your vanilla detailing, it does have a little bit of it. There's something about the rivers that almost look like canals as well. I think they're just very straight, aren't they? I think that's what it is. It does look weird kind of seeing such a straight run of river in cities. You do kind of associate it with a canal. Again, there is more vanilla detailing over here with some pretty nicely laid out castle ruins, to be fair. I think this is probably one of the most effective ways I've seen the castle ruin assets used by the devs when they drop them in the maps like this. This is quite nice. But of course, it doesn't really make the map. Most people end up deleting them anyway. But yeah, I can just imagine trying to get a city built at a start. It kind of suffers from the same problem as Cliffside Bay and Icy Islands in the fact that its theme, its actual topography, forces it into a very specific type of build. So if anyone has reached like a real significant population size on this map, please share it in our Discord. I would love to see how it looks with all these big hills and this huge dome where you start on. This is definitely the most unique starting layout, I think. I can't imagine playing on this map. Very unfriendly terrains, little to no natural resources. Means you won't be playing that much industry outside of forestry. So for me, Winter Hills thoroughly deserves its slot as our first ever crap map on the tier list. Okay guys, that is going to do it for today. I want to thank you all so much for watching. If you've enjoyed the video, likes, comments and shares below really help out my channel. Equally as much if you haven't enjoyed it, please feel free to leave a dislike as well. I can imagine that this Snowfall tier list is going to be one of the more divisive ones purely because of Snowfall. Some people live and love the Snowfall maps, others hate them. I've tried to judge them without factoring in that relentless white. Again, in my opinion, Snowfall should have been a Seasons DLC, but we can live in hope for Cities 2, right? Maybe one day. Otherwise, a huge thank you again for all the support on the channel. We have hit 40,000 subscribers this weekend just passed. Amazing. Thank you so much. Never ever thought that would be possible. And yeah, really super hugely appreciate it. And I'm glad you guys are enjoying the content as well. Otherwise, I will shut up and I will leave it there. Thank you all so much for watching. As always, enjoy the rest of your day.